afternoon. All right, we are recording this. Awesome. Good afternoon. I'm Zachary Payne. I'm the San Antonio Post Vice President currently, and then 2023 President-elect. And on behalf of our Post President, Joshua Graham, who couldn't attend today, I would like to welcome you to this very special event. So one of the 5 goals in the Society's 2025 strategic plan is to develop leaders for the profession. And that starts with focusing on our young professionals, which is why Josh has stated that he wants 2022 to be the year of the young professional for our post. So in support of that direction and the strategic plan, our post branding team put together today's panel of AEC professionals from different parts of industry and government to share what they feel are the keys to success in their career and how SAME has impacted their professional growth. Before I turn it over to our moderator, a few housekeeping items. As Glenn mentioned a minute ago, please mute your microphones. If you have any questions throughout, we'll be monitoring the chat, or you can use your raise your hand function to be recognized. The meeting is recorded and we'll be uploading to the Post website along with the speaker's key points when it's all said and done. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our moderator, Glenn Turney. Glenn is one of our resident fellows and a longtime member and leader for our post with plenty of his own wisdom to impart on us, along with each of the panelists. So with that, over to you, Glenn.
Okay, thanks a lot, Zach. I appreciate that. Today, we're going to have 5 panelists. They are Victoria Hernandez, Michelle Torres, Dr. Pat Sewerman, Sam Hutchins, and probably a combo of Captain Varsha Savalia and Captain Arpan Patel. So with that, what I'm going to do is go through each one of these. I'd like to put your questions in the chat if you want to remember them, but we'll wait until each of the speakers is done speaking to talk to that speaker, or preferably we'll even wait until they're all done and maybe there are questions you have of more than one. So with that, I'm going to introduce Victoria, who's got another pressing item this afternoon. So we're going to let her go first. Victoria joined Jacobs in 2018 as an environmental planner in San Antonio, where she led complex environmental projects and public and agency involvement efforts to support both state and federal clients. In 2021, she was selected to be the executive advisor to the senior vice president and general manager of Jacobs Federal and Environmental Solutions, where she collaborates with senior leadership in the implementation and rollout of key initiatives to support the growth and development of business and people. She also serves as the Society of American Engineer STEM Community of Interest as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Liaison, and enjoys working with the Society to foster a love of learning, critical thinking, and creativity in young students, which promotes and supports a pathway to STEM degrees and careers. We miss her here in San Antonio. Victoria, if you want to go through your talking points, that would be great. And as Zach mentioned, just put your questions in the chat and or raise your hand, and we're going to have definitely with Victoria the questions right after we get done so that she has plenty of time. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Glenn. It's great to be back on a San Antonio Post call. Some of the talking points I put together for kind of keys to career success, I think, are probably things that will be shared with many of the other panelists. For me, the first thing is always taking on the challenging opportunities that are put in front of you. Very early in my career, I had a mentor tell me to never say no to a career opportunity, whether that meant, moving across the country sometimes, or maybe something you didn't know or you had no idea how to do yet. Learning on the job is part of the skill set that you take on. For me, one of the biggest moments in my career was in 2019. Someone gave me a call, a colleague at Jacobs, and said, "Hey, we don't really know what they're doing down at Tyndall yet, but they need someone in environmental. Can you do it? Can you be there in a day?" And me saying yes to that led to, I think, my current job supporting our senior vice president at Jacobs. And it was definitely many moments through that where I felt that, I don't know if I'm, able to do this, but I kind of pushed through and just wasn't afraid of saying yes to an experience that I made, I didn't think I was prepared for, but I definitely learned through it and became better for it. Number 2 on my list is recognizing your own personal brand. I had another mentor that I've actually met during my time at Tyndall who introduced that term to me about my own personal brand, how I'm perceived by others in not only my current company, but elsewhere and all of my peers I come across in industry, and just recognizing that I have this personal brand, that I have this perception of myself that I need to be aware of and see how I'm seen through other people's eyes. And that's led to me just being very purposeful and with my interactions and not shying away from responsibilities. And especially as I've gotten into more leadership roles throughout my career progressively, just how I'm viewed as a leader and taking on responsibility, and how I recognize my own mistakes and own up to those mistakes to others to show what my type of leadership is. It's been something that I've learned definitely as I've progressed in my career, is just how I'm viewed and how I want to be viewed as a leader. And then the last point is networking is definitely, I think, something everyone will say is a key to career success. And I think this is where SAME definitely has helped the most. It was at an SAME event that I actually met my current boss, Tim Byers, for the first time. He came up to me and said, "Hey, I hear you're doing great things at SAME." And obviously at Jacobs with my current company. And it was kind of a bond that I think clicked for us and helped me. It was that one thing that he knew about me, and that helped me in my career grow. And networking and making sure I'm connecting with people all throughout the business, all throughout industry, has been important to just get to know people and have a community that I can rely on. I made a move from San Antonio up to Arlington, Virginia this past year. SAME has been that glue that has actually kept me a little sane here, because I was able to join a post up here, people I had recognized from other SAME events, have a community, and just have people in my corner. And I think that's been definitely beneficial to my career and just my success and my sanity, especially in some of these times. So that's what I have, Glenn.
All right, excellent. And if we have anybody that has a question, either throw it in the chat or raise your hand. And Zach and Dick, if you could help me keep an eye on that. I'm going to start the ball rolling, Victoria, by saying I love your talking points. I think they're great for folks. When I do my mentoring, these are all part of that process. When you talk about your own personal brand, how do you go about understanding what your brand is? And more importantly, what do you look at as development processes or things that help you develop your brand? Just give me a quick update on how that looks.
I think it's many things, but when I first started out and when I first was introduced to that kind of phrase, it was really looking around me at the leaders that I admired and seeing what qualities of their leadership I wanted to take on, and things that I wanted to emulate. And so that's been a big part of recognizing those pieces from all of the great leaders I've come in contact with, and see what kind of leader I want to be. And so that's definitely how I've started the process. If you can remind me of the second part of the question.
Well, and now that you have that personal brand, or you've identified, hey, these are the various leaders I want to emulate, and pieces of each one. That you don't want to be that person necessarily, but how does that work for you? What do you do now that purposefully to continue to put that brand out there, or demonstrate to others that you have a personal brand?
I think a big part of it that I've learned is to do opportunities like this, get my face out there. I'm actually moderating at JETC this year in a month. I'm more active on social media, and just putting myself out there and putting myself in situations where that brand that I want to be perceived, it can now be recognized, because you can only have a personal brand if others see it. And so I've kind of forced myself. I'm an introvert, And I've had to be a little bit of an extrovert and be more open to people seeing that.
Fantastic. Great answer. And
Yep.
along those lines, I see a question here in the chat from Dawn. And Dawn Gleason's asked, there's a lot of focus and talk lately on your strengths and passion versus taking on every role available. How do you balance those with your aspirations to advance? I think there's a subtle thing there to look at.
And that's definitely a tough one. There are things that, not only from balancing that, but balancing mental health as well. And, you can't say yes to everything. You'll just burn out very quickly if you do that. For me, I think talking through those with my mentors has been the biggest help, talking about purposefully what I want my career to look like in 5, 10, 15 years from now, and understanding what's going to help me get there. And so just being purposeful in those decisions and laying that out on paper in my, check-ins with my own supervisor, understanding that has helped me there in that area.
Excellent. Anything else quick, folks, before we let Victoria get to her next meeting? This busy young executive she is.
I'm going to jump in before I can type it. I'm going to just say it, if that's all right, Glenn.
Yeah, go for it.
So I love, Victoria, that you talked about mentors, and obviously being the leadership and mentoring guy for San Antonio, I'm interested in that. But how did you select your mentors? Was it just kind of people you were working with, or were you purposeful on it? And was it a formal or informal relationship?
So my early mentors were definitely an informal process. They just are folks that, I've met through career opportunities and just naturally we rolled into this mentorship relationship lately. And it's funny you mention it, because I had my mid-year check-in with my supervisor, and I purposefully asked him to help me connect with a more senior mentor this time. And I was purposeful that I personally wanted a female mentor because I wanted to see their career perspective. And so I've had natural mentorships for him, but then now I'm hoping for more purposeful mentors to grow differently. So it's been a little bit of both for me.
Thanks on both of those. Appreciate it. Good stuff.
Fantastic. Victoria, thank you very much for joining us today. Have a good time in Arlington, and we hope to see you around the San Antonio Post, or actually we'll see you at Jetsy. So great.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Okay, next we're going to talk to Michelle Torres, and Michelle served 9 years in the Army as a Medical Service Corps officer. She served as a health facility planner in Germany, Fort Campbell, and the Pentagon. And she started a health facility solutions company in 2003. So HFS is a service-disabled veteran and woman-owned small business. HFS also provides architecture and engineering, design, construction phase services, program and project management, and facility services to clients worldwide. Specializing in healthcare, HFS also supports all types of DoD facilities through the Corps of Engineers and at VA campuses. And with that, Michelle, we want to go ahead and hear from you.
All right, thanks. As you were introducing Victoria, I realized that I didn't put in my little bio for you what my role is at SAME, which I think is super important. I was in Dawn's position a few years ago as the leadership and mentoring director, and then I supported the leadership lab, and right now I am the sustaining membership chair, and I also work for the Small Business Conference as well. So with that, I'll move right into my 3 points, and I'm going to give them to you up front. So you have those, and that's mentoring, training, and networking. So it's funny, Victoria was talking about we're probably going to duplicate which things we think are important. And although she didn't say mentoring, she mentioned it a lot as she was talking about all her different points. So I think she would agree that mentoring is huge. I had the privilege of having mentors throughout my career when I was in the military, helping me navigate my military career. And then as I got out and started my business, I had a mentor helping me with, navigating the business world and the federal world. So I've been blessed in that regard. They've all been, just kind of by happenstance. And I've had great mentors helping me. And so I've been trying to pay that not forward, but backward. So I was helping, working with Dawn, putting together the mentoring program for the SAME. So if you have any interest in that, I think we're still doing it, to volunteer to either be a mentor or a mentee to get assigned to do that. It's a great opportunity to meet someone new. You can never have too many mentors. That's my theory. And you can never mentor too many people. Although, as Victoria said, you have to say no at some point. You can't do everything. But I think it's always a great opportunity to try to give some of your knowledge back to the younger folks, so they're not making the same mistakes you did, right? You had to learn, you had to go through them, but hopefully you can help someone learn those things before they have to go through the pain of the failures. So mentoring is super important. The next one is training. You never know enough, whether that in your business skills, in your career skills, in your leadership skills, and even the things that you already know. Things are changing, laws are changing, so keeping up with even your current skills are super important. And SAME is just phenomenal in supporting those aspects. They have everything, again, from specific skill related environmental type trainings to things like this leadership development. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that if you haven't had a chance to be part of the leadership lab, to look into it. It's a awesome program. I was not fortunate enough to go through it myself. I always regretted it, but I did have the opportunity to be one of the chairs. So I felt like I was part of the family, part of the team. And again, it's such a wonderful course. I've sent some of my folks through, and even though I think they were a little reluctant based on their longevity with my firm, and where they were in the leadership pecking order, they were lower in their management and leadership skills. They raved about every single one, was like, oh my gosh, it was the best thing. So I know it is time consuming, but again, it's definitely worth the time if you have the ability to do that. So if you haven't looked into it before, please do so. And then the third one, I think Victoria also mentioned, is networking. And I wanted to point out that it's not just networking to meet new people and find out new opportunities, but it's also to reconnect and continue the relationships that you already have, kind of staying relevant. If you go to different industry days and talk to people, you bring yourself and your company back to the forefront of those people's minds. And when there is an opportunity or a question, they can circle back and reach out to you. And it's also a great opportunity to find gurus in the field. If you have a question or you want to learn more, again, back to the training piece, that you can find those people as you network. That's super important. And I think that's all I have. I'll take questions, or we'll save them to the end, however you want to do it.
Well, I think we can go ahead, Michelle. We've got several pieces of information in the chat. Thank you, Terry, for putting some of your thoughts out there, and Dawn for answering. Michelle, as always, great. You did a great job. Part of this is to talk about how SAME has helped us and enabled us to understand some of these talking points, and I agree with that. And to Kelly, hey, no problem. We've got Dawn, we've got Michelle, you've got myself. Any of us would be happy to talk to you about mentoring. We're looking forward to that. Eric is on the line, Eric Wilbur. We're doing a session up in Sammy Jepsy on mentoring and leadership. And so that's great. We have a formal program. And what I'm going to try to do up there is introduce San Antonio Post program to others at Jetsy who may not be as far along as we are. Again, that's a form of mentoring. We're going to mentor other posts potentially with that. Any just specific questions for Michelle out there other than what we have in the chat?
Nobody else has one. I'm going to jump in again.
Do it.
Hey, I put the note in there as I work with military. One of the things they know they need to do is networking, but they're resistant because they feel like they're asking for something. And I feel a lot of people stay away from networking because they always feel like they're asking for something. I was wondering how you, coming out of the military and getting into a small business owner, overcame that resistance.
Well, it took me a while, and it was actually at a networking conference where kind of the light bulb went off. And it was actually during COVID, believe it or not. We were in a Zoom meeting, and we had to go around, and each person had to say exactly what were they looking for, whether it was a mentor or, hey, I need a vendor that can supply me with more bread, or it was, I'm looking for a realtor. It was anything and everything. I mean, everybody needs something, whether that's in your career, in your business, in your mental health, whatever it is. And so it was kind of refreshing that everybody there had a need. So I think at that point, anyone going to a networking event has a need, and you have the ability to fulfill that. It's kind of like people that never want to ask for help, but yet they want to help everybody, right? It's because it gives people a good feeling to help others. So let people help you. It makes them feel good about themselves. And so if we can kind of understand that it's just a network of, helping people, whether it's make a connection, teaching them something new, or helping them find a job, all those things are helpful, and it makes the person feel good when they can help someone.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, in the interest of time, we're going to move on. Thank you very much, Michelle, as always. Next, we're going to talk to Dr. Pat Sewerman, who is the interim dean of the Texas A&M College of Architecture. That's the largest college of its kind in the U.S., with more than 3,300 students and about 250 faculty and staff. Before that appointment, many of us knew Pat when he served for 4 years as the head of the A&M Department of Construction Science. And he was instrumental in establishing the department as the largest and best program in the nation, leading it to a significant increase in its externally funded research and its industry support and student success. Pat also retired from the U.S. Air Force in 2017 as a lieutenant colonel after serving as a combat and stateside engineer. He earned a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering and a degree in Civil Engineering at the Air Force Academy, and a Master in Construction Management at A&M, as well as a PhD in Design, Construction, and Planning from the University of Florida. Pat, without further ado, maybe you can give your thoughts to the crew.
Howdy. We've only had 2 people, but I mean, they really said almost word for word some of the same things that I had written in my notes. So it's crazy that it's just like a restaurant. It's relatively simple on what you need to do to be successful. You just have to have a good customer service and a good product. But I guess what I would say is very similar to what Michelle said, and also same as Victoria. And the commandant when I was a cadet was General Stephen Lorenz. And the thing that he told us before he went off on exchange I went to West Point for 1 semester on exchange when I was a cadet, and he said that we should always say, give me more. And that was definitely appropriate and fitting as when I went to West Point, because I was only going to have 1 semester there, and I wanted to make the most of it. And that's what I've tried to do, is you just never pass up education or training opportunities. I think Michelle and Victoria both said that one. But sometimes that means really jumping into something you're not really comfortable on. And a good example is in 2006, I found out I was going to start my PhD, and I asked around for some Society of American Military Engineers contacts what they thought I should study. And I wound up linking up with Deke Smith, who was the chief DoD architect and he said, "Oh, you need to go look into building information modeling." And so I said, "Okay." And what he did was he got me a spot on the National BIM Standard Executive Committee to write the national standard, and I didn't even really know what it was, and I was now on the national committee to define it for North America. And so that's what I would recommend is put yourself under the wing of somebody else who's successful and make them get you out of your comfort zone. And that's a good mentor. And then you're going to be successful if you perform and you do your best when people put you in those difficult positions. And then the last one is pretty simple, and maybe I can answer some questions or hand my time over to Joe Kessler, who's either guzzling water or beer, as the case may be. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, he's hydrate or die, Joe. But the last thing I would say is write thank you notes and be genuinely grateful for the opportunities that people give you. I have a schedule on my calendar every Friday to write thank you notes in the morning, because Jimmy Kimmel also writes thank you notes on Tonight Show. And so I think it's appropriate to write thank you notes. And so if you're thinking about somebody, call them or send them an email, but definitely keep writing those handwritten thank you notes. I have a whole drawer in the bottom here where when you have one of those bad days, I just go through pictures that kids have drawn me or thank you notes that past students like Zach Payne have written me about why they're so successful. And yep. And Arpan Patel, who is in the airport, I don't know if he's on this yet or not, so he might not be able to join us, but write thank you notes and be genuinely grateful, because we have a lot to be grateful for in our country and in our professions, and for the brains that we have that enable us to do all these things, because not everybody has those abilities. So that's it for me.
Excellent, Pat. Thank you very much. Anybody got any questions now, or if not, put them in the chat and hold on to them, and we'll see what type of time we have at the end. So a comment from Dawn, not a question. Pat, thanks a bunch. We'll move on. And next we're going to talk about Sam Hutchins. So Sam's been with the City of San Antonio Public Works for 22 years. He's a licensed engineer, has worked on the capital program side of Public Works as project engineer, a project manager, and a manager. He currently oversees the Public Works project management software, scheduling and reporting, which includes dashboards, models, databases, and development of new reports and business processes. He was an Army engineer officer for 7 years and retired from the reserves in 2004 as a lieutenant colonel. He worked as a Department of Army civilian in operational test and evaluation arena for 9 years, and 2 years as a Department of the Navy civilian in the Fleet Facilities Office. He's been the treasurer of San Antonio Post, of which we're all very grateful for his 20 years of service. He's excellent and is a SAMI Fellow. He graduated from the United States Military Academy in 1980, has an MS in Engineering Management from Missouri University of Science and Technology, and an MS in Civil from the University of UTSA. His wife's a retired Army Nurse Corps Lieutenant Colonel, and he has 2 daughters. We all really appreciate him. Sam, you want to give us some pearls of wisdom?
Well, hello. Yeah, mine are slightly different. My first one, it was when I was looking back when I was a project manager, and talking to other people, is what I thought was really important was developing that good working relationship with either your consultants, your contractors, and to include your staff. Because invariably you need them to do something for you, or they need you to do. If you have that good relationship, you can make your project go and you can overcome stuff. And in doing that, some of the things that make it so that this relationship can work is such as paying them timely manner. I know consultants and contractors like that. Making decisions and taking actions quickly. Making sure that if you commit to something that you actually really try to make that really happen, make it happen, being fair on issues. I always wanted to work together to resolve some of the issues and being responsive. However, I did highlight, you do it right, because I will check, and if it's not right, I'm going to reject it. And the bottom line is I didn't play games. We were here to get it done, do it right, and things will go good. Another one of them that I found that really been real helpful in my career is being part of the solution. In fact, I really enjoy doing it because I feel really good when I'm helping people. And in fact, in my particular position where I'm dealing with computers and programs and coming up with, I'm able to do it. But I had some key things that, first of all, and this is for what my staff, because we run that help desk, is mistakes are going to happen, but the important part is fix them when you find them. Get them fixed and let's go on. Listen and understand the issue and the goals before proposing a solution. When somebody comes up and says, I need to do this, listen, because some of the time they tell me, oh, I want it to do this. And you go, wait a minute. It would be we can do this, but we don't need to go through anywhere near what you want to do. We can give you the same solution. And that's an important part, because when somebody wants to do something that isn't doable, what you need to do is figure out what can you do to get to the same goal. So a lot of times there's more than one way to solve a problem. And to be honest, if you can provide valuable solutions that work for people and make their jobs easier, you soon become extremely valuable. My third thing, which for me anyway, is do what you're good at and enjoy doing. It really makes your life a lot nicer. To be honest, I hate writing and all that, but I love to get behind programs, planning, doing those type of things. Those are easy for me. Writing, I really have to work. If you enjoy what you're doing, work is a lot of fun. And the other thing is determine what makes you feel good. I enjoy it when someone comes up to me and said, I just wasted hours having to do this. And I can think about it and come up with a solution that took their 4 hours of work and reduced it to 20 minutes just by making some changes on a program or coming up with a new business process. So those are the type of things that I really enjoy. And my other one is and my wife will agree with it, don't let your ego push you into something that you're not going to enjoy. There's been times I think, boy, it'd be good to be the assistant director or the director. I really don't like playing politics. I don't like being on the beck and call. Every time somebody says jump, you have to jump. I enjoy what I do. I remember when my father was a veterinarian, was always gone. I wanted to spend time with my kids. Therefore, I stayed in a job where, one, I could do what I like to do, and it really helped. SAME membership, in my actual job, moving me up, it didn't do much for me. Most of the consultants that were working that come to SAME don't even work for the SIP. However, it did give me the option, the ability to meet all these different types of people doing that. I get to see the different side of the world, different side of the consultant world that I don't normally do. And yes, I've been the treasurer for a long time. I like it. It's what I do. It's numbers. Again, I'm a number person, and it also makes it so that you're not changing where we mail stuff, the bank accounts every year, credit cards every year, getting new credit cards. Enjoy working the golf tournament. And the other thing, I enjoy going to some of the big events. Why? I run into my classmates and my friends that I've worked with before. So, and you can only do that if you're a member of the group going there. That's what I have.
Excellent, Sam. It looks like we've got a question in the chat window from Terry Reid, and he'd like you to comment on, he says he likes doing what he's good at, but how do you reconcile that with getting out of your comfort zone? So something that you may not be as comfortable or necessarily practiced at, but you need to do it anyway for whatever reason. You have a comment on that?
Kind of doing this isn't exactly in my comfort zone. Doing some of them is where I was thinking more of is when going up, did I really want to be an assistant director or director and dealing with that? Or there's times when I am doing things, I'm doing briefings and some of that stuff. So there's some of them, and for example, when they were doing our ERP system, I was the public works rep for ERP. and didn't know a lot about it, just did it. So do some of it, but there's also a trade-off. Do you like, I have to measure, because when you're an assistant director, Saturdays, maybe Sundays, or even late nights, all of a sudden become used by someone else. You're all, and how does that fit into what you want out of your life? That's all I can say on that.
Practical, Sam. I think that's very practical. All right, we're going to move on to Captain Varsha Savalia, who's a U.S. Public Health Service officer working at the Office of the Secretary for Health and Human Services as a senior advisor. Prior to her current role, she was a senior engineer with the Food and Drug Administration for 17 years, and she has 18 years of uniform service. Captain Savalia was the STEM coordinator and membership coordinator for the Mid-Maryland Post, and she had volunteered at engineering and construction camps at the Academy, the Corps, and Scott Air Force Base, and now serves as the San Antonio Post E&C camp coordinator. She enjoys mentoring high school and college students with interests in the STEM field, and we're very happy that Varsha jumped on board when we had another conflict right here. And Captain Savalia, we're happy to have you. If you want to go through your talking points, we look forward to them. Oh, you are on mute. Well, not hearing you just yet. If you pop the arrow on the mute button up, you will see what it's at. Yeah, I've got you still on mute. Let me see if I can take you off that. Doesn't look like. There you go. Now, no, I'm still not hearing you. Okay, we're going to get her going. Any other questions while we're getting there? Keep trying. Okay. Yeah, if you take the mute button, there's a little arrow, do the up arrow. It will give you an opportunity to select which microphone, and you may have to need to check a different microphone or using your system if you're using a laptop.
Yeah, I think there's something wrong. She's showing that she's off of, she's got her microphone on, but it doesn't seem to be working, Glenn.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to keep trying. Okay, well, you know what I'm going to do is she went through the brain damage of putting something together, so I'm going to read that for her while she's checking that. And Varsha, if you get into a point where we start hearing you talk, we're gonna let you go, but we definitely want to get your points in. And interestingly enough, as we've heard from our previous folks, there are several of these that we've heard about. I think my bottom line up front with everybody here, if you start looking at these folks who've talked and what their comments have been, I think you're going to get the sense that a lot of them are similar. You might want to pay attention to those. It's kind of like taking a quiz in college, right? If the prof talks about something enough, maybe it's important enough, you should learn it. How are you now, Varsha? Are we here? Still not hearing anything. I'm hearing something, but it doesn't sound like it's coming through.
Have you got your volume raised on?
Okay. Well, one of the things that Varsha had sent over to us, and again, thank her so much for jumping in last minute to help, is on networking. And so she joined Sammy 1.5 months, so a month and a half after commissioning into the service to meet and connect with people of similar background. And she was new in the service and beginning her career field while stationed at a border town in Nogales. Many of us have been through there, and SAMI memberships helped her to connect with other engineers as she wouldn't have otherwise known. It increased her opportunity to see career options. And, going to JETSI now is like a family reunion for her, which is really cool. And I know a lot of us feel like that. a couple of us have talked about how neat it is to get back to a place like Jetsy, where we run into people and it's a lot of fun and it's also enriching. Michelle talked about, hey, one of the things is you've got to keep in contact with people and find out what's going on. It's not always about selling something. It's, a lot of times it's just about finding out what's going on with them. Another thing she has mentioned here is, and this is ironic, the adaptability and flexibility. So I think this one's excellent. In hers is, do not box yourself into one position. Don't be afraid to try new things, take on diverse roles, and it can help to grow your current skill set and background. And again, we've heard that from several of the panelists talking about, hey, there's that happy medium. I don't volunteer for everything, but I need to. One of the things, I guess, if we take it a step back, we need to understand what our career plan and growth and goals are. And then when those opportunities pop up, we can match that up against what our goals are. So for instance, if my goal is X and this opportunity is somehow going to help me to achieve that, then I might look at that a little more closely than if it's something that's off in left field and I don't see it adding into the big picture. Maybe then I ask my mentor what they think. Speaking of which, her last point talked about mentors and seeking many mentors in your life, regardless if you're entry level, mid-career, or senior level, and they can help you to achieve your goals and broaden your view of what options you have. They can help with some of your challenges and asking about their experiences. And Varsity, I think that's wise. None of us, one of the things we heard earlier, Michelle, again, I'll pick on you, you talked about continuing your education. I think, if you stop learning, you stop leading. I didn't make that up. That's I'm stealing that from someone. Maybe somebody can put in the chat who originated that statement, but it's true. If we stop learning, we stop leading, and that doesn't mean always continue education at the academic level. That means in our job, with our skill sets. Sam talked about, hey, this isn't the most fun thing for him to do a presentation. However, this is something that gets you a little bit out of that comfort zone, and it isn't necessarily career related per se. Sam has contributed a tremendous amount to Sammy over his 20 years, and not only as the treasurer, but just as the glue for the organization, along with Dick. And I make it known to anybody who wants to listen that Dick's one of my mentors. And if you want to know about Sammy and how to act at Sammy and how to contribute to Sammy, you would be very well served to look at Dick Kahanick and what he's done for our organization. So sorry we couldn't hear your voice, Varsity, but thank you for your points. I think they're excellent. And we do have about 15 minutes if we've got anybody who wants to either chime in to emphasize a point, to give an example, or to ask a question of any of our panelists. So we'll let you just pop yourself off mute and ask the question, and then we'll go from there. Oh, there you go. Hey, Dick, she's got the 202 number if you want to try to do that. Let's see.
I can't. I did. I tried to unmute her. I can't.
Okay.
I don't know what the problem is. That's super security there. The public health service.
I tell you, the public health service is not fooling around. So any of you guys were thinking about trying to break into their system?
Can you try *6?
Are you talking to Varsha now?
Yeah.
Okay. That worked. Good job. Thank you. I am so sorry about that. I am so sorry.
No worries. No worries. What we'd love to do is would you just give in your own words, a few minutes on your points? I did them not all that much service by just reading them, but which of those stand out, and which would you like to emphasize as really important in your career and in your SAMI relationships, and what SAMI has done for you? We want to do this two things. We want people to hear about these 5 panelists, but we also want to hear, how did SAMI help facilitate that, or what role did SAMI play in that process? So go ahead, Varsity.
Absolutely. So honestly, it's what most of the panelists already said. It's a combination of that mentoring and networking. Honestly, the main reason I joined SAME right from the start of my career, I was brand new to the area in the middle of nowhere in Nogales. As you know, there's not a lot of things for a young person in that area. I'm pretty sure for anyone who's been there, I literally worked at the border. Like, I would go to lunch across the line into Mexico. That's how close I was. And also, I was brand new in the career field, in the engineering field, not knowing many people over there. And so being a member at SAME really, really helped me connect me to other engineers, not just in the US, but also, I joined the committee of interest and people were overseas. And so I got to see the other side of how people work and what opportunities there were right from the start of my career. And I knew that there would be other opportunities doing my field, right? Sometimes we go to school for certain disciplines, but as you know, as most of you in your field, what you do right now is not exactly everything you went to school for. Your career has developed over the time. And that is so important to me because some of these people that I met through the membership have driven my career to where it is now over the years of working with them, or just hearing what even existed for even my field or what has developed into my field over the years. And for example, one of them is, I think it's ironic because you hear Victoria speak first. I actually met her at JETS because I was trying to recruit mentors for the engineering camp, because I was at the time helping build the very first one at Scott Air Force Base. And I was looking for mentors because that was my responsibility, to make sure that we have enough mentors, kind of vet them out. And that's how I seeked her out at JETSI. And at that point, I was in Maryland. I was not part of San Antonio Post yet. And that it's ironic because as soon as I got here, she left to go to my old stomping grounds and met people there. And so I just think, like, this is why I really look forward to going to JETSI, because people I've never worked with before, I've just met through, and I look forward to seeing them, the presidents from other posts, the people who helped me at the camp itself, and meeting the post members at those camp areas. And honestly, even like mentoring, I tell people all the time, doesn't matter what level you are, it's so important to get mentors at every level. Because like Victoria said, right, she chose one mentor who was a senior level. I did very, very similar. As soon as I got into the field, I wanted to make sure that I met a female who had a PE. Like, that was my goal, because I wanted to see, what obstacles she had as an engineer. Majority of the people I went to school at the time were males. So it was really, it was not really known that tons of women were in the engineering field. So I wanted to connect to see how they went through the obstacle of some of the things that they could help me with. But I didn't just was gender biased. I also made sure, like, I wanted to work in this field. So I seeked out someone who was already there to see what path they took to get there. And say, you know what, I'm thinking of a hybrid of this and this. What do you think? Like, would you recommend an advanced degree in this? What do you think about this leadership course I'm thinking of? So it was really, really nice, because when I was talking to some of these people, they're like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Have you heard of this? And none of those things were even in my radar. And without asking some of these folks who had experience over time, like, it just broadened my perspective of what existed out there and what fields that are out there, and then helped me connect to the people that are like, you know what, I know somebody who went through that course. Would you be interested in connecting? Yeah, I would love to. That's how I got connected to the fellows, the Academy of Fellows. And because I was right from the start, one of the things I was thinking of, I want to be a fellow down the road. So I got connected to a couple of fellows who's been mentoring me through the years. Just so that it's something I had a goal of. And sometimes we end up at where something at, and we don't even have a goal of, but we don't realize that until your interest grows in that. So I think mentoring and networking has been my biggest saving grace in my career. And I don't think I'm going to stop ever, even when I retire at some point, which is not going to be for another 11 more years. But at that point, I'm still going to ask people to continue to mentor me, because it will be always something that I'm always interested in. And I think there's something different having an official mentor versus a friend. You know, the friend's always like, oh yeah, you can do everything and anything. Where your mentor's going to be really more realistic. Like, you know what? I know you want to be a ballerina, but you got 2 left feet. And so, so you want someone to be honest with you. You know, if it's something not your interest, and as you already heard someone else, you know, you have to work with your passion, and they're going to help you realize that. And if something is not your passion, you're telling them, you know, I kind of want to do this because you know, I see this as in high visibility, or I want to be financially stable, and this is why I'm reaching for this goal. They're going to say, well, you know, that is just not your right, or maybe you need to develop this part of it. So I will say those are 2 of the main things I would probably tell anyone. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out in your field, you're straight out of college, or you've been working a few years, or you've been in 10 years. I don't think those 2 things will ever do you wrong if you have the opportunity, at every opportunity. And I do feel like, as someone has mentioned before, right? Like, I do feel sometimes like if I ask somebody, then they're going to think I'm looking for a job from them, or I want something when I try to network. And it was hard for me in the beginning to kind of have a different mind frame when I networked. Someone else mentioned that to me early in my career. You know, I don't want to really ask somebody, you know, to help me out. I've never met them. I said, that's even better, because you just say, you know, hey, I'm new. I don't know a lot of things. I was wondering if I can bounce some things off of you. Would you mind just, you know, listening to me and just give me your feedback? I'm not, you know, and they appreciate that. And doesn't mean necessarily you're looking for a job from them. I've gone to different companies. I'm in government, right? So I am not in the private sector right now, but I've gone to people in the private sector just to ask their perspectives and how to deal with certain things. Or I'll work with a contract, and I still ask them, like, hey, you know, I just want to run something by you. You know, it's not a conflict of interest or anything, just to get their feedback, just to get their perspectives, and then the pitfalls that I can avoid by doing that as well. I think I've taken more than enough of my 5 minutes, so
that was great, Varsity. Thank you very much. What we're going to try to do, we got just a few minutes left here. I'm going to go to a question by Colonel John Baker, and it's to the group, and it's talking about, do your organizations have a roadmap showing the education, skills, credentials, and experience required to advance employees' career? And he was talking about the military obviously has this in the uniformed service. Pat Sewerman talked about, no, we really don't. However, here's what we're thinking about. I will answer from an HDR perspective. We have a very formal process that we utilize. In fact, we have 2 different career tracks within HDR, one which is strictly technical, the other one which is more management focused, and you can bounce back and forth between those 2. But what we want is a parallel between someone who really wants to be the best engineer there is, but feels like they have to change and be a management person in order to get compensated and taken care of as if they are a vice president or something. So we have parallels all the way up. And so you can be this level of technical professional is equal to a vice president. And we find that that helps people who are more oriented toward their skill set, which is on the technical side. Doesn't mean the management folks don't have technical capabilities, but those are very ours, I will say, is extremely large and very detailed. And then we have the subtleties on the edges of that, where, you know, we might have a little bit of blurring between the lines, which always is good. I think I'm a fan of the gray area. So, other than legality, all right. Does anybody else out there in the have an example, quick one, 2 minutes on what your organizations have?
Glenn, I think Joseph Kiesler had a comment in the chat line. If he wants to
did.
unmute.
Oh, there we go. Hey, Joe. Good to see you, man. You see the GS side has the mirage of a roadmap, but for contractors just okay. And what do you see as a potential solution to that, Joe? Or what in your mind is what do companies need to think about? You made that comment, so I'm going to kick that one back over to you. Since you made that comment, what is your opinion? What would you like to see, or what you think is a potential way to combat that?
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Joe.
I think the biggest hurdle is for a contractor company to get the bigger piece of the pie where they can grow to the next level, other than a contract, a subcontract, you end up with a small piece of it, and the growth is not there unless you move to the other contract that has the higher positions and move along those routes. But there's no connectivity between those all the way up. So unless the major contract holder develops something like that, I don't see that being a solution until it happens that way.
Do you think then the only opportunities for folks who are 3 tiers down the level is to go to one of the other organizations in order to get more opportunity? Do you think that's a situation?
Yeah, you'll find through a grapevine of who has the next level up, and then you try to bid in towards that contractor to take that position. But as far as the contract you're in under that contract company, you're kind of stuck in that position because that's the only position that they've been allotted.
Well, excellent. You know what? I tell you what, if you want to further discuss that, I'm sure a few of us on the line would love to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over due to time to Zach to kind of bring this home. I really appreciate the panelists. I appreciate all of the questions and input in the chat. Thank you very much for your input, everyone. And Zach, you want to close us out?
Absolutely. Thanks, Glenn. And yeah, again, round of applause to everyone for participating, the speakers. You know, one of our goals when we sat down and talked about this was really to try to bring some diversity of experience, because there are a lot of ways to find success in a career, find a career path that you love, something that you love doing. And so seeing the different options out there has been very good. But again, thank you all for participating. Hopefully we'll see quite a few of you in the next couple of weeks at JETC out in Aurora, Colorado. It's if you've never been there, the Gaylord is a hop, skip, and a jump from Denver. So you're out there in the middle of nowhere. But the Gaylord and that compound is very nice, and there's a lot of amenities there, and there's going to be plenty of time to network or mentor, which was mentioned by most of the speakers today. So you're gonna have plenty of time to do that if that's what you're interested in. But on behalf of the Post and our Post president, thank you again for joining us, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Great presentation, guys, everybody.